John Reed, ex-HMAS Napier, ordinary seaman submarine detector, NASDAQ operator, and these were taken in 1941 during some leave periods in Cairo in this particular instance. And Napier was part of the destroyer, one of the destroyer flotillas operating in the Eastern Mediterranean during 1941. These series of shots were taken, as I mentioned, just on leave at the building above the New Zealand Club in Cairo, looking down below at street level, and various photographs and scenes around Cairo looking into the distance. And we have there the Muhammad Ali Mosque in the distance, a fairly normal dusty day in Cairo. Just spanning back again to the Muhammad Ali Mosque. We didn't get very much leave for obvious reasons, but I was able to get twice to Cairo. I used to know the names of all these streets, but I'm afraid that's too long ago now to recall. This is at street level and shows the entrance to the New Zealand Club, which is a pretty popular meeting place for all army personnel particularly. And this is down in the Muski, or the bazaar, always a hive of activity as it is still today. Various troops, of course, present, everybody pursuing their efforts of earning a livelihood in whatever form they were skilled at. Gharries, which are the horse-drawn vehicles. And as you see, typical dress of women there. Various personnel, some of the policemen just standing there. All these little shops were operating much the same as they do today, producing various wares. They're producing buckles, selling jewellery, hammering inlays into copper and brass for trays, and always intensely interesting when you, as you can see there, hammering copper wire into trays and filing there for a belt buckle. This is during my youthful days and a lot lighter in weight in that period, so I was about 19, I guess, then. The local produce, just about to go onto the dinner table. It gives an indication of the appearance of dress, of the variation too, and some of the skills, obviously, in balancing. This is like sort of lemonade, which they used to hawk around and sell. And in hot periods, of course, it was always welcome. These are during a raid in Port Said, as I recall. These are German flares dropping down to illuminate the target area, and you can see traces going up from the shore-based anti-aircraft batteries. Two flashes that were from the bottom, they were from the Parramatta. She was moored there at that stage. And of course all the units of the fleet cooperated in anti-aircraft fire in order to try to bring down the parachute flare as quickly as possible. What you can't get here, of course, is the noise that goes on the whole time. This is at port side and the Hobart. Various merchant ships unloading. It was just continually in operation for everything coming through the canal, because in the Eastern Med at that stage everything had to come via the Cape. There was no chance of coming through from Gibraltar. 2 Javelin-class destroyers, which were similar to Napier, Nizam, Norman, Nestor. Modern destroyers at that stage, very efficient. That's the Customs House again. And various watercraft in which we used to have to get back on board ship if we missed a Liberty boat. To keep us occupied, we used to play water polo, and this is alongside at when we were there at Port Said. And our team did pretty well, as a matter of fact, but we also had some Yugoslavian MTBs, small high-speed motor torpedo boats, alongside, and we asked out of courtesy if they'd like to join us in a game, and they said yes, they'd like to very much. Well, they beat us I think it was about 23-5 or something in that order. And we found out that 3 of their members had been Olympic Games water polo players previously. Everybody looking over the side, and I guess the water wasn't really the purest, but that was of small consequence to us at that stage. This, if I remember correctly, is Jeff Batchelor, who wrote a book on the in-class and Napier and his exploits, and he was one of my fellow anti-submarine ASDIC operators, and he played water polo regularly. That was a slow motion shot, obviously. This is the Ajax. We're out on patrol. Beautiful cruiser, 6-inch guns, and with her normal, as we came to know it, camouflage. That's the Valiant, one of our battleships that operated. There were 3 of them: Barham, Valiant and Queen Elizabeth, in the Eastern Mediterranean. And here we are practicing at sea on a towed aerial target for anti-aircraft fire. One of the close-range Oerlikon anti-aircraft guns which we had installed. And we were carrying out also practice runs in laying a smoke screen, looking down aft towards X gun, which are twin 4.7s, and this is on the way up to Brook on the ferry service. You can see laden down with stores, 4-inch gun there, and the crew standing by. And we took up army troops. In this case, I think they were UK, and we aim to get up there just as soon as we damn well can. That's our multiple pom-poms, 40mm combined units. And when we came back, we unloaded back in Alexandria wounded and troops that had served their time there in Tobruk, and wounded, of course, were also carried ashore. And these were taken from the crow's nest lookout position, and this is the whole of the Eastern Med Fleet at sea, with destroyers you can see right out to the horizon in screening position ahead of the main units of the fleet, cruisers coming then, and then behind, right astern, we would have the battleships coming along. That's on looking out to the port wing. And just a scan of the deck. This is on the starboard side, probably Nizam, I think, our sister ship. We operated together there, looking down on the bridge from the crow's nest. And our A gun and B guns, twin 4.7s, looking forward. They were very handy, but lacked elevation, so consequently they weren't. They had limitations in anti-aircraft fire. It's looking down on the signalling platform just below the bridge. A beautiful afternoon at sea, somewhere south of Crete it would have been. You can see, I'm sorry, the film is pretty ancient and you get these. That's a captured Stuka dive bomber over the Free French ships in Alex. And this is during practice shooting, our twin 4.7s. The Georgic, which was sunk and sitting on the bottom at Port Tewfik, at the southern entrance to the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. And this is following a depth charge attack. If there was any possibility of collecting fish, everybody was over the side, and he's just got some too and picking them up. That's the Dido or Naiad, I'm not sure. It may have been Naiad. One of the high-angle 5.25 anti-aircraft cruisers, very useful. Ajax again. Our multiple .5s and our operator, George Scull. This was on a reconnaissance plane and anti-aircraft fire. They regularly sent reconnaissance planes over, either when we were in port in Alexandria just to check. This would automatically herald a bombing run that night. So the fleet used to change their positions quite frequently after they'd gone. There was a lot of barrage put up by the Army on the anti-aircraft establishments based around Alexandria. And this just gives you an indication of the class of destroyer. This is, I believe, is the 14th destroyer flotilla, and we were taking, yes, that's the 14th, exiting as we enter Haifa. We, as flotilla leader of the 7th Destroyer Flotilla, and Captain Mack in Jarvis leading the 14th. And we were taking Indian troops from Haifa to Famagusta in Cyprus and leaving them there and bringing back British troops who were to be deployed elsewhere. So we were running a ferry service backwards and forwards for 2 or 3 trips. And these are the oil pipelines coming down to the oiling wharf at Haifa. Some of our chaps who'd had a bit of leave, and you can also see Indian troops bringing their gear aboard. So we'd load up then and then head over to Cyprus and bring back British troops. As you can see, they're coming aboard and bringing all their gear. This is inside Mount Carmel Monastery, high above Haifa, and 3 of us had leave, and we took a taxi, went up there. It's Elisha's tomb, and the photography is absolutely terrible. One of our friends, you can see a bearded monk there, selling a few knickknacks, and on the way down and looking above and down onto Haifa and the harbour, and there's a hospital ship moored there. This is a general run round the coast and bay area, which was quite extensive. Jeff Batchelor and Fred Fayers, they were 2 of my friends aboard. We were all operators together in Napier, and on our way down back into the town, down the road from Mount Carmel. One of the local constabulary guiding traffic. Here we are at sea, doing, as I recall, a depth charge attack. That's our sister ship Nizam. So we've got a bit of speed up here, and we dropped a few charges, but we weren't successful. It gives you an indication of the type of vessel. This is Nizam, identical to us. And you can see chaps running forward. We attached a line, as I recall, to a Kali float that was found floating there, and brought it alongside an inboard. That's the 4-inch gun just firing there. These are most of the crew from the auxiliary vessel Glenroy, a very useful oiler and help for the fleet. She was torpedoed on the port quarter. She's listing by the stern. She's been taken in tow by one of the old cruisers, the Carlisle. And we went alongside, took some aboard directly, and then the rest came by boat, tossed all their gear up, and we took them back to Alex. There was Glenroy and Glengyle, very, very useful ships. And they eventually, I think by tow from memory, did get it back. They went past Merzimatru and finally, I did believe, got it back to Alexandria. You can see the tow line out forward. She's in tow by the Carlisle. And the next series is the Barham, and she has the Magazines have exploded. It's a tremendous sight, one that you would hope never to see again. And that is the Jarvis you can see just going in. There she is, Captain Mac, going in to pick up survivors. She and us, we were both ordered to go alongside and take off survivors when she was still listing to port and stop before the magazines exploded. And we were closing with it all the time, as was Jarvis, when the magazines exploded, and away she went. An enormous, devastating explosion with a mushroom cloud that went thousands of feet into the air. And having watched chaps through the binoculars as I was P1 Action Lookout, running along the deck and diving over, and then seeing that explosion, you couldn't credit that a single person could have got out of it alive. But in fact, I think they got just about 400 survivors, which were picked up by, I think, Nizam and Jarvis and possibly others. That period, as a result of that, we screened the remaining battleships, the Queen Elizabeth and Valiant, back to Alexandria. And with all the problems that we had, and it had previously in Crete evacuations and Greece, with units of the fleet, a lot of them being sunk, it was a serious stage for the Eastern Mediterranean fleet.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
The only thing I could say would be that there were so many people who were involved in all these things and took lots of photographs, but I think probably mine was the only movie taken other than from the official photographer aboard the Queen Elizabeth. Yeah.